Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. Thank you for joining me. We are exploring the side quest that Socrates has given us in this dialogue with Jesus. That is, can we create a map of the stages of enlightenment using what we have learnt from this dialogue that we've been reading between him and Jesus, along with the Zen Buddhist ox herding pictures. The Zen Buddhist ox herding pictures seems to be the closest kind of thing to a logos from a non-philosophy tradition of enlightenment, or a logos, a map. It's hard to find an equivalent for logos because it contains so much. Stages of development, understandable, verifiable in experience, universally applied. The logos, the paradigm, the map. So that's where we are. So far we have covered the first 8 stages, which are 2 stages of ignorance, followed by 6 stages of development, culminating in the 8th ox herding picture, which seems to be what we have recognized as the brilliant light of being in the conversation between Socrates and Jesus. So let's jump in. So the instruction from Socrates is to create a sequel to this book, Socrates and Buddha, or the dialogue between Socrates and Buddha. You could recognize the conversation between a philosopher and a religious person, or Socrates and Jesus, as what's needed to take people from the realm of belief, making sense through belief, which is, of course, what's a nice way of saying this? Well, fuck being nice. What's a true way of saying this? A caveman-like way of making sense of the world where you believe somebody else. It functions in opposition to your own development and understanding, because beliefs don't develop, they don't change. It's just, you're a Christian and you're a Christian for life. And if you change your mind, you go to hell, that kind of stuff. Therefore, it is in opposition to the literal thing that we're here to do, the development of our understanding. And of course, there's no art or skill in belief, you just do as you're told. That's why grifters, the right wing, and religious groups all try and manipulate other human beings through their belief. And as we've been learning about in the dialogue, we all get a fundamental false belief about ourselves and reality that blocks our development of understanding. That also means it blocks our experiences of our higher states of mind, better states of being, and to know the self. The knowing and showing of the self, of course, is our ultimate goal, to know the true nature of ourselves, and to function most ideally from that state of being. Meaning there has to be some sort of skill or learning or development along the way, so that when we return to the source of all things, the self, we can function through what we've learnt to return. And function in a beneficial way, which would mean everything that we have gone through in those 2 aspects of our learning, perfecting our understanding, which includes enlightenment experiences, direct verification of what we've been understanding about self and reality and mind. And the second part, purifying what's false. In one sense, we're all master meditators. And of course, the ideal form of meditation is the dialectic, which is also the use of understanding. We have the capacity for self-reflection, ousia, and logos, language, to put the 2 together to make use of our evolved cognitive capacity. That's understanding, or the dialectic. But what's fascinating is we're doing it anyway. Every moment, every thought, every fantasy, every daydream, every choice of goal contains either implicitly or is explicitly about our image of ourself. It's what styles in every thought you have. I wonder what I'm going to do today. Who? You wonder what who's going to do? So it begins with an image of yourself. And everything that you choose that you're going to do for that day or you can't do for that day will have to be implicit within that idea of self. I can't fly to the moon, but I can get a lovely ice cream. Inherent within the idea of the self contains what you can and can't do. Now that's seeing it in a simple way with whether you fly to the moon or get an ice cream, but we want to apply it to our highest experiences of mind and self. Well, self isn't an experience, it is what has the experience. So not just getting a lovely ice cream, but knowing the true nature of reality and recognizing the self. Is that something you can do? Not if you're carrying a false belief about yourself. So we're all master meditators or master dialecticians. We are just doing it on a false idea of self and reality caused by our beliefs, our fundamental beliefs we get from childhood, believing our parents. That becomes believing our authority figures, political figures, religious figures, exploited through marketing. Most universities have a huge marketing department where people learn how to manipulate the images and beliefs of others to extract profit. Societal systems that reflect and maintain the ignorance of belief, pitting human beings against each other and ourselves as a species and our own best interest, the sickness of capitalism. Also stemming from the root cause of human problems, belief. So Jesus, representing of course belief, is engaged in a dialogue with Socrates. Socrates is artfully, skillfully, caringly, as a true friend, guiding him through stages of reflection about his highest experience, his divine luminosity experience, the understanding about that experience, and equally so, the false beliefs about self and reality, and his allegiance to belief or faith as a way of being that blocks his development of understanding, blocks his ability to have that experience in greater depth, what we would recognize now as progress through the ox-herding pictures. Don't just have a glimpse, because that's stage 3. Develop through stage 4, 5, 6, 7, and have the highest experience of divine luminosity or mind knowing itself, which you can only do if you are, again, perfecting your understanding and surfacing your false beliefs that are in opposition to that development, and using the dialectic to find the source, the root cause of those, and remove them. So, understanding both ways. Understanding up and understanding to remove what brings you down. What we would recognize as the logos that we follow is the path of reason that moves us up. Using the words, so Socrates asks the questions, Jesus provides the words. Now there is a map or structure behind those questions, just as there is a paradigm or map or blueprints to of understanding human problems and human development. The blueprints of how we move up are the ox-herding pictures that we've been looking at. The blueprints of how to use the dialectic to remove what's false, that's formerly philosophical midwifery. What we're seeing is our dream maker helps guide us in both. So there's a map that we can use in asking the questions, but the person that we're talking to, the interlocutor, provides the content. So he uses his words. Jesus uses his words. He talks about his religious upbringing, his family situation, his culture, the war between the Jews and the Hellenics, between understanding. There are certain keywords that are even missing, apparently, within, what's the language? Jewish language? What's the language? It was in the book. Yeah. You need certain keywords that some cultures lack, like the word the. Big one. How can you look for the beautiful if you only have a word for an example of beauty? You have to go from the many to the one. So, trapped in belief, that's one culture, the Jewish culture, and the Hellenic, those who can move from belief into truth and understanding through, understanding. So, Socrates asks the questions, Jesus provides the content about his specific problems and his specific level of understanding and vision, and Socrates practices his art, an art that we are all here to master. If the dialectic is the art of dialogue, if dialectic is the skill and application of understanding, if the dialectic is the ideal form of making use of ousia, self-reflection and language, then Socrates is practicing the art we're all here to practice. The kind of learning and nurture of the soul that we can take with us. Because what we're doing is we're making use of non-physical ideas. That's the significance of the word the. Physical expressions use beauty, justice as adjectives. An example of justice: a just referee, a just society, a beautiful streamer, a beautiful puppy. But the noun or the substantive, that's the cause of its use as an adjective in the physical world, has its existence non-physically for it to have a scope, for it to be able to affect everything physically. So what we're learning about, and also what we're making use of in the dialectic, because these ideas, beauty, hey, we ask questions. Is this really beautiful? Are there ideas that exist, whole and part? What's the whole of this idea? What's the whole of beauty? What are the parts of beauty? So it informs the structure of our questions of the dialectic. All of these things, these nouns, are non-physical, while having a greater scope over the physical world, allowing us to understand and function well in the physical world, meaning it's the kind of learning and nurture we can take with us non-physically. So either when we die, or if we're able to have these ox-herding experiences during our life, this dialectic Socrates is practicing is the kind of learning and nurture we can take with us into those states of being, cognitive functions, levels of reality, and stages of evolution. So, once again, you could say the meaning of life. For it has a positive, it's the highest functioning in this physical world and has the positive effects, perfection and purification in this physical world, but it's also a kind of learning and nurture we can take with us. And for it to be the meaning of life, it has to tick both boxes. Excuse me one. So Socrates is practicing that, so benefiting his own soul, while also benefiting the soul of Jesus to move him from belief into understanding. Now, one of the things we've seen in the dialogue so far is that there are two kinds of enlightenment experiences. There's self-experiencing itself in its reflection or its creation, a kind of creation, because it's not a creation in the sense of how an artist creates a painting, because that requires a whole bunch of things. It requires a model. It requires a copy to be made based on that model. It requires an intelligence to create that. It requires some sort of judgment, whether or not the creation is true and reflects the model, all of these things. But those are a bunch of things, or a manyness, which can be brought together in the artist as a oneness. But the sort of creation we're talking about is what gives rise to qualities. So the way the one self, the pure one, itself, the first hypothesis of Parmenides, generates or creates its reflection, well, is more like how you create your reflection when you look at yourself in the mirror, or how you create your shadow. Or another example is the scent of a flower. The beauty of divine luminosity, beauty itself, is the sun rays of the sun. Now there's that experience, there's the experience of mind itself, or divine luminosity, or beauty itself. And there's the ultimate experience, if that's the penultimate, of, well, what is its cause? What is the self? Or what is the source? So what's interesting in the dialogue so far is, while Jesus has been open to talk about the luminosity experience, whenever Socrates brings up the higher experience of self, which is, again, not an experience, some sort of recognition, perhaps you could call it, or an encounter, or it's fun to think about what words we would use to talk about how we know the self. When Socrates brings those up, Jesus seems to be blocked from it. Goes over his head, not interested, or something like that. So, we can see the journey from belief, ignorance, suffering, individually, and also all human problems culturally is a projection of our pathologos. So if we give people power over others, they will play out their level of understanding and ignorance. And because the pathologos is our fundamental idea of self and reality, it's the most motivating force. So when we talk about people being zombies or in an NPC script, or when we talk about for the right wing or religious people or anyone motivated by clan identity, we talk about cruelty being the point. In other words, they're motivated more by their fundamental pathologos than they are whatever they've learnt through understanding. Which is interesting. We can call, therefore, the pathologos the most powerful force in the universe, because even if you've had an enlightenment experience, what's more powerful? Your pathologos. Because it's fundamentally what you think of as self and reality, therefore it's what motivates everything you do. It's the character, but also the pathologos is the idea of what's good and strong and beautiful. So, political problems or social problems are nothing other than people looking for opportunities to play out their pathologos drama. It isn't a drama because it doesn't reach a true conclusion of success. They're not at rest because it's false, it's wrong. Constant conflict, constant drama, projecting the anger of their own injustice suffered when they got their pathologos, and responding to that projection with their idea of strength, which is the very thing that they're angry about that they suffered themselves. So, a kind of catch-22 cycle of violence, suffering, or cry bullying. They do the bullying and cry victim because they're suffering both roles. That's our current social way of social problems, or how we relate to each other as a species, because we have yet to properly acknowledge the nature of truth, or logos, and the nature of human ignorance, pathologos. Instead, grifters venerate belief. The truth is believing who I say you should believe in, and killing who I should tell you to kill. Because I'm your boss, because I'm your preacher, because I'm your rabbi, because I'm your imam, or because I'm your mummy or daddy. And problems are caused not by ignorance, belief, but because of evil, and we must kill all the people who look different than us. That's how we defeat evil. That's pathologos, that's ignorance. But this also applies to our souls. We too play out the ignorance of our own pathologos, false beliefs of self and reality. to the extent we don't acknowledge the existence of the Logos, the significance of the Logos, and the meaning of our life to learn about the Logos and follow it through the art of the dialectic. And that's what binds us to our own individual problems from the text. And social problems are nothing other than the projection and playing out on that by those who have some power over others and can play out their drama with and get away with it, or play out their pathologos with impunity. The pathologos Peter's principle we talked about earlier. Therefore, we can see the dialogue between Socrates and Jesus as a movement from belief-based ignorance into the opening stages of the ox-herding pictures. Jesus' glimpse. So it sounds like he had a stage 3 ox-herding picture experience. And then without the dialectic, without the logos, to examine the counterattacks, because with every insight, experience, learning comes a counterattack, comes the pathologos false beliefs you spent your life identifying with. You were trained from childhood to falsely believe you need a kind of solution to survive your family upbringing that no longer applies. That thing will try and hold on to itself by undermining your experiences, undermining your understanding, or undermining your even yourself. You are a small bean, it will tell you, and you are a bad noodle. To the pathologos we say,
I'm too pure. Dumbass.
No, we say,
they're completely lying to you. They're completely lying.
And we say,
my head is quite large and filled with secrets.
oh, okay. Right, I didn't expect that drop, but does that fit? Our head is quite large and full with secrets. False secrets we want to remove by saying to the pathologos,
you moron, you absolute fucking buffoon, you goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiot. So, we can see a kind of cautionary tale in the story of Jesus as someone who has had a breakthrough experience, but without the dialectic to reflect on those counter-attacks that will come up in force to bring you down, then those counter-attacks will win. And of course, Jesus then identifies with Elijah and tries to play out that drama. I am the next Elijah and all of that stuff, jumping on the donkey, doing all the things, claiming to be the king of the Jews and all that sort of stuff. And not saying, oh no, I don't think any of that, when challenged. So, from belief into this first opening stages of enlightenment, we need to not fall down, but continue our journey up. Therefore, the need for the sequel to the book we're reading. Someone who has acknowledged the logos, the existence of understandability in the world, has acknowledged that, hey, maybe there is a way of understanding the nature of self and reality. Everything that I've seen in my physical world, I have recognized is benefited by understanding. I'm a better skateboarder if I understand skateboarding. I'm a better mechanic if I understand a car engine. And also, if I don't understand and if I just believe somebody else, I seem to be stupid and ignorant. In fact, beliefs are the cause of all ignorance, I have recognized, because of racist beliefs, sexist beliefs, religious beliefs. If you've recognized that, then you can ask the next question, are all problems therefore potentially solvable? In principle? How far does the logos extend? How far does rationality extend? We can understand skateboarding and how to fix an engine. Can we understand ourselves? Making use of ousia, turning our logos or ability to understand upon ourselves. That's ousia. Capacity for self-reflection and a capacity for language and understanding. That's what makes us more evolved than cabbages and caterpillars and cows. That is what's needed to move through from a glimpse or stage 3 of the oxherding pictures all the way through to our highest experiences of reality. That's a great thing about understanding or the logos or the dialectic. It ain't belief, meaning you get to confirm everything you've understood in direct experience. You can learn that there's a party happening and all of the philosophers are hanging out in this place where this awesome party is, and you get to go. Your ticket in seems to be the dialectic. And the person you can buy the best tickets from is your own dream maker. Because when we apply our dialectic to dreams, apparently we get guidance in how to do both and how to perfect our understanding of the book we're reading, or the kinds of books we're reading that will allow us to, you can't magic your way into understanding a car engine. You have to be reading some sort of book that demonstrates the logos or the pattern of how car engines work. Equally so, your dream maker will help you in your reading and also help you gain insight into the blocks that are coming up as you've been reading, because there's always those two things, the logos and the pathologos, the development and the counterattack. So the ticket we get through the dialectic, ticket to the party. But so we can understand this current dialogue as going from belief into understanding, which can open you up to higher states of mind and being. The next stage would be, okay, someone who has seen the benefit of understanding and has had those higher experiences of your own state of being, your own way of perceiving or cognitive function, and the higher levels of reality, where do they move to and from? That's what we've been learning. So far, we've been seeing there is a development of that first experience of mind from 3 to 8, but there's also that transition. So while the first dialogue with Jesus is from belief into mind, we could say the next one is from mind into self. Because there are still 2 more ox-herding pictures beyond stage 8. Meaning a transition to what Socrates called in the dialogue, the other side of heaven. Isn't that interesting? From knowing yourself as mind, or self seeing itself in the mirror, you could say, to self knowing itself directly. Let's remind ourselves quickly of the instruction in the text to move through those stages, and also from one level to the other. Also, let's acknowledge, isn't this freaking cool? Isn't it neat to recognize that we can understand all problems and they are all solvable? And that very understanding we can apply to ourselves to perfect our own state of being, our own kind of soul. That there are stages of development of soul that we have in these ox-herding pictures where we can recognize where we're at and where we're going and what's involved in each of them. Isn't that neat? That even though there are so many horrendous injustices happening in the world because of human pathologos and our counterattack to Socrates, you could say, while Socrates and his teachers were in a tradition of the logos, there was a huge counterattack. We killed Socrates. And then with the introduction of Christianity, Emperor Justinian, fuckface McGee...
Would you just blow in from Stupid Town?
Who blew in from Stupid Town.
Dumbass?
As a dumbass, decided to murder the philosophers, shut down the academy, bring in the Dark Ages where everything went to shit. People were murdered and tortured and exploited under the name of faith, bro. A direct counterattack of the pathologos to the logos. Despite that, we can still do work. Individually, we can still learn. We can do what we're here to do. We can escape the chains of our own individual suffering and pathologos through this reading these fun, awesome books that are like kick-ass anyway. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Honestly, on the real, I say stuff like that because I'm cool.
And we read stuff like this because we're cool. In spite of all of the ignorance that is happening around us, we can still do our work, escape the chains of our own ignorance, and even escape the prison of a lower reincarnation. Isn't that neat? And hey, we have internets. So we can find other like-minded people who are interested in their own development, interested in solving problems, especially their own, and practice with them, play with them, read with them. I think it's neat anyway. So, in that aforementioned book that bangs, let's take a look at this the side quest instruction. Why are we in the oxidizing pictures? Here we go. I believe you should call the sequel the dialogue between Socrates and the Buddha. Why? Because right, so here we have a conclusion of where we're up to right now. The Pauline doctrine, Christianity is based on not on anything Jesus said or any of the anything we see in the first couple of sentences of John, anything we see in Mark, or anything in the Gnostic Gospels. It's all in opposition to that, because Paul claimed to speak for God and was a wolf in sheep's clothing and talks about faith. Do as you're fucking told while we scam you. That's it. Faith. Believe in shit we tell you. Don't understand it for yourself. Don't verify it in your own experience. Don't also surface your own false beliefs from your own family, clan, tribe, tradition that will only surface if you are seeking to develop your understanding. Don't do any of that. Just do as you're fucking told while we murder you and kill you and take all your shit, subjugate other races, justify genocide, justify torturing women because we blame them for sin. Why? Oh, because we made it up. All of that shit is from Paul. Paul's doctrine is faith is sufficient for salvation. Right? So a root cause of all human ignorance on our planet, and also individually, whether we like it or not, whether we reject religion to become atheists, we still are influenced. It's not a matter of rejecting religion and becoming atheists. It's rejecting religion because we've understood why it is in principle harmful. And just because religion is false or claims false things about the divine doesn't mean there's no divinity. Just because religion says you can't understand, you are a small bean and bad noodle, doesn't mean it's true. Just because a fascist has their shitty idea of justice doesn't mean there is no justice. So that's the problem of leaving religion without understanding it, or leaving downward. Just because those people sucked doesn't mean everything sucks. So there's the downward movement. There is nothing. No. Those guys are just lying about it. There is a non-physical dimension or cause to the physical world, or consciousness that you can understand and know, and even a cause of that. That's the upward movement, or anagogic, if you fancy. Speaking of fancy, I need to turn up my fan. So while Paul talks about the faith is sufficient for salvation, and he says nothing about the conditions necessary for actually going to the party, entering the kingdom of God, or experiencing our own mind in a higher, more real way. It's, by the way, this isn't something you have to be good enough for, in that kind of sense. It's your own mind. It's just knowing what you are and what you have. Why not? Don't you have a mind? Don't you want to know it? Don't you want to experience it in its fullest? Don't you want to experience all the joy of knowing it completely? Paul would say no. Fuck you. To Paul we say,
wrong. You're so wrong.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
Bad and you're getting spanking and you're wrong. So, it says nothing about the conditions and mark, so you can say that a good Christian would recognize the ignorance of Paul. Not hard to see, considering he was known for murdering Christians for fun. And the difference between Mark, who provides the story of Jesus that all the other Gospels in the Bible copy. Because Mark offers understanding as a way of preparing the mind for the breakthrough we call the kingdom of God. So, understanding is how we, using the oxiding pictures, would move from stage 1 and 2 into stage 3, the breakthrough experience. Socrates says, indeed, there is a way to that state of mind or kingdom of God. It is direct and simple. Understanding, dialectic. And I think we also need something like what Plato started in his myth, the Phaedrus. Indeed, I am sure you know of it. In it, it is where he describes the journey of the soul to experience the other side. In the journey, there are stages along the way, but I would have liked all of the stages of enlightenment from a glimpse to its final stages fully worked out. I agree. Jesus says, by the way, the people to talk to about that would be the Zen masters. And their use of the ox-herding pictures for that very thing. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So now that we have had a glimpse or gone from belief into understanding, which prepares us for the higher experiences of mind, how do we move through the stages of mind and to the other side, the self? So to do that, we have a look at these pictures and find that there is a beautiful and profound statement of 1, the state of mind. Or actually, the way we have been organizing it, and you can do it differently if you like, is 1, what is encountered. So we're saying that's the thing itself. What do we see? Number 2, how does it function when we see it? Or demonstration. What's it like? What's the state of mind? Number 2, how... function is a tricky word. So, okay. Number 1, what's encountered. Number 2, our state of mind. Number 3, how that functions. What's the result of encountering that thing in that state of mind? And number 4, the conclusion. How does it suggest a sequel? When you've fully maxed a certain level, there should be an implication or a direction to the next level. In anything you do. You learn a certain level and you realize, oh heck, I've mastered this sort of thing, but there were certain things that needed to exist for this thing to exist. What's an example of this? Well, a good one would be Euclid's geometry. You can master geometry by following Euclid's elements of geometry, which will give you a complete self-contained system of understanding that's fun. But once you've done that, you can then look back on what you've got. Oh, I've got a complete way of understanding of geometry. That, hey, may have changed how you view the world. Just like I have English. I see through English. I can speak through English. I can function through English. But in doing so, you're left with a question, hang on a second, there were certain principles or axioms I took for granted in order to play this game. Where did they come from? Same thing with, as we saw right after this, Socrates talks about how he got into philosophy to begin with. He began with a view that, here he is. Early in my youth, says Socrates, I heard the repeated refrain that life is empty of meaning and all we face is war, death, and dishonor. The view that was held was that there is a war between heaven and earth, between good and evil, and it's unending and eternal. The conflict was not merely between those mighty cosmic forces, but played out within our very souls. If you join the forces of good over evil, you gain heaven, with all the non-believers going to hell. Obviously, there is no role or place for meaning in this eternal conflict. Meaningless bullshit garbage in that story. And certainly there is no escape. Oh well, except oppression. So the believers condemn all those who oppose them. Right? The savage loyalty to our own ignorance and suffering and those who indoctrinated us into it. Instead of self-reflection, projection, and violence. How dare you challenge me? Don't you know Jesus is king? I will kill you to show how much of a good Christian I am. Not just Christianity, any belief. Every person's family way of being, by the way. I stayed with this early group, since at the time there was no meaningful alternatives to me. So that's one of the things we do here. Provide a meaningful alternative to the ignorance offered by belief-based groups who remove meaning and respond savagely, ignorantly, zombie-like to anyone who opposes their way of being. Then I was drawn to music. Ooh. I became interested and later enchanted with it. Speaking of enchanted, let me just check. I found myself attracted to those musicians who were able to capture a beauty that moved my soul. I have been playing music all weekend, and I've been wondering about the sorts of people who were motivated by my music, and this helps me to reflect on that. Capturing a beauty that moved my soul. Here was a creation alive and present in the moment, only to disappear nearly as fast as it came into being. Here I could see some musicians had reached out and were touched by something wondrous. And this they brought into being from somewhere unknown even to themselves. Ooh. The ideal state of playing music. Famous stories of hang on, one second. So famous stories of that, of course, John Lennon channeling Let It Be, Chris Cornell channeling All at Once, Black Hole Sun, and there's a bunch of other ones. But also participating in that state of being where we are. Oh, and by the way, he's speaking about some musicians reaching out and touched by something wondrous, and this they brought into being, so functioning through it, to be able to create from that higher state that they're touching, from somewhere even unknown even to themselves. There, as I said to myself, must be something few want to acknowledge. Here was a beauty that I realized emerged from a structure that exhibited principles of harmony. Harmony, I hoped, was itself a reflection of some higher and truly existing order and intelligibility. Yes, it might be dimly perceived, but nonetheless, it was there to be participated in. So now that we've done a bit of work in the oxiding pictures, we can look back at what Socrates is talking about and see, hey, can we understand that in a new way that we weren't able to do the first time? What's he having a glimpse of through music? And the musicians themselves, what are they in? Perhaps they're not in the first two oxiding pictures, they're touching something wondrous, and they're also able to function through it in a kind of a way. Is Socrates experiencing through musicians stage 3, the glimpse? Glimpsing the ox? Is his wondering, I hope, hang on a second, Socrates' ability to reflect on the cause of that beauty emerging and its parts, harmony, to think that there might be a structure. If this musician can do it and that musician can do it, and I can perceive it too, it can't be just something unique to them. There has to be some sort of structure in reality that allows this wondrous beauty and functioning through it to create demonstrable works that exists. So is Socrates going therefore from 3 into 4 by seeking the harmony or the structure behind it and its cause? The musicians themselves, are they, if they're functioning through it to some success, are they in 5, maybe? Having a glimpse, but also have done some sort of work in their musical art to see or perceive or understand that structure of harmony that they're making use of, that allows them to not only experience the beauty of the song, touching something wondrous, but be able to use their work or development of understanding to function through it with some success. So in those moments, are those musicians in 5? And he says, hey, hang on a second, even they themselves don't know what they're participating in. Oh, so it's a sometimes thing or an only partial thing. So if they were to move from partial success in functioning of 5th oxiding picture into a greater mastery of it through a proper understanding, would they be moving from the 5th, which is, in terms of the oxiding pictures, hold. The 5th oxiding picture, taming the ox. Sometimes we go, the ox drags us off some dusty road, but sometimes it's well trained and naturally gentle. Properly tended, he becomes clean or gentle, but sometimes he will stray off into muddy haunts. Therefore, you need to hold tight the nose rope and not allow the ox to roam. So, taming the ox. Are they taming the ox? Having some success, but not complete. But by the way, untethered, it would, so the each ox-herding picture, as we've seen, as Socrates wants us to see, contains an anticipation of the next stage. So let's bring it up. Things I'm looking at it myself. So here we are, taming the ox. But the conclusion, so what's encountered, state of mind, how it functions, We've got an example of that now, maybe from Socrates' reflection on these musicians, functioning a certain kind of way, bringing something wondrous to birth from a higher state of mind through a structure or harmony that you can participate in. So following the structure or the understanding of the parts, the harmony, could be the rope. That could be how we tame the ox, through understanding. But also there is a suggestion of its sequel, or as we said, reaching the end of one stage gives you a hint into the next stage, or directs you into the next stage. Untethered, it will willingly follow its master. So what would it be like to not need the rope, to just see through music, not need to remember the scales and things? Mastery. Number 6, riding the bull. The struggle is over. The struggle for gain and loss no longer affects him. He hums the rustic tune of the woodsman and plays the simple songs of the village children. So there sounds like a musician functioning ideally through a mastery of that art, not just a glimpse, as Socrates had when he first heard the musicians, not just the struggle. So number 3, okay, the first 2 ox herding pictures are ignorance. Seeking the ox, you're not really seeking because you think you know better. Discovery of the footprints, you're starting to notice that there might be an understanding, but you're not jumping into the game yet. Number 3 is what we're after, the beginning. Perceiving the bull, the first glimpse of the ox. Socrates getting a glimpse of some higher beauty and harmony that musicians were participating in, that those who he was raised with were not offering him. Just suffer, just kill the other team, because good versus evil. And within your soul, you are at war with yourself. Beat yourself up. All of the anger and suffering we see every human being going through all the time, beating themselves up, angry at themselves, often projecting the anger onto those who they can get away with. Petty tyrant bosses at jobs, politicians exploiting and murdering the people that they were supposed to be benefiting. Generals doing genocide for profit for oil companies. Religious people telling, hey, give us all your money so we can buy our gold jets. And also women suck. And women should not ask questions, and you should not ask questions. Listen to me preach. I'm going to give a big monologue, and you can't ask questions. And if you do, we will all attack you. So, an alternative to that, offered through music. Actually, not good versus evil. Insight versus a lack of insight. Seeing and following the harmony inherent to music, and therefore reality. Music's a part of reality. Or being blind to it. Not because you're evil, or you're a small bean or a bad noodle, or a different shape and color to this religion or that political party. No. It's either seeing or not. That's it. The glimpse of the ox. What is the source? And wondering about, with the inner vision properly focused, one comes to realize that that which is seen is identical to the true source. So wondering about the cause, maybe. What is this? What source of this beauty? The struggle to, so now that you've glimpsed the ox, notice there's no rope. Seeking the understanding of it, putting the rope on it, or following, the logos. Well, we said the logos could be the footprints. The ox could be the mind. I don't know exactly which they are, but we're wondering. We're keeping those metaphors open. But hey, grasping the ox. Breaking your old habits are not easy. Your mind continues to yearn for those sweet-scented grasses and is still stubborn and unbridled. Still If you don't grasp the rope, then the ox can go back to its unhealthy tendencies. So there's a possibility of going back into those old false beliefs about good and evil, suffering, beating yourself up, beating up others if you can get away with it. ICE agents putting on masks and carrying guns to beat up whoever they can get away with because they are not addressing their own ignorance and injustice they suffered and how they are beating themselves up. They're not taming their ox. They are in stage 1, using ideas of right and wrong. Are you an illegal? Are you an illegal? That sounds like an accent. I'm going to murder you. Or you're someone I don't like, says the ignorant stage 1 person of ICE who murdered the Minnesotan woman this week. You're a different shape and color than I like. I'm going to murder you. And then the fascist Nazi government of Donald Trump says, oh no, she was a terrorist. And people who carry masks and who wear masks and don't show anything of themselves, have no qualifications, but join this fascist group, can murder people with impunity, is the official report of the Trumpism religion authority people saying. Sick, but understandable. In ideas of right and wrong dart out like daggers. Ideas of right and wrong are just bullshit we make up so we can attack people that we want to attack and take their stuff, says Trump and the Trump administration as they invade Venezuela for their oil. Greed for worldly gain and dread of loss spring up like searing flames. So, stage 1 of the worst state of ignorance. But here, we're seeing Socrates maybe in 4, having had a glimpse of music, wondering about the harmony, wondering about how he could participate in it, wondering about the cause. What makes those different musicians special? But hey, still might be struggling with the unhealthy tendencies or his old habits or his old false pathologos beliefs about good and evil, heaven and hell, and a constant battle. Oh, my neighbors are cooking something really nice. I can smell it. So, glimpsing the ox, catching the ox. Socrates is looking to catch those musicians, taming the bull, sometimes having insight, but not all the time, not completely understanding it. But the anticipation of the next stage, what would it be like to completely master music? Riding the bull. And the irony here is, or the symmetry and beauty of this is, the metaphor used to describe it is literally playing music. Being able to relate musically or to function through the music. And of course, music is a lesser example of the patterns and harmony of the dialectic, the highest kind of art. Being able to tailor your use of your understanding of the inherent harmony or map or structure of dialogue to be able to talk to anyone. Woodsmans and village children, you can relate to them where they're at, help them through the ox-herding pictures in a pleasant, charming, graceful, entertaining, fun way. The 6th ox-herding picture. Riding the ox home. Riding free as air. Oh, and by the way, here's another thing. Astride the ox's back, he gazes serenely at the clouds above. His head does not turn in his temptations, towards his temptations. Try though one may to upset him, he remains undisturbed. There's a certain level of seeing through your art that you can recognize the ignorance of others as simply being blocked from that art you can see. Being blocked from the logos by their pathologos. recognizing that and recognizing that every single living being seeks the truth of self and reality, wants their happiness and benefit, and doesn't want their suffering. They want to follow the Logos, they want this mastery themselves, they just don't know it because of their pathologos. That any delight they have in being sadistic trolls is just their own ignorance. They are crying aloud, this is how sick I am. Why would that upset you? Especially if doesn't matter what they do, you have that mastery. You can ride your own ox. Doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So try though they may to upset him, he remains undisturbed. Sounds like a high level of temperance. But an effortless kind of temperance because you're seeing through it now. Mastery. Earlier in the text, Socrates talks about that. The tragedy of our current education system is it doesn't affect your state of consciousness or mind or being. It's just through repetition and rote, remember it for a test, then forget it later. This kind of learning changes us to the point where we can see through our learning or ride the ox or mastery, which allows us also to see the ignorance of others and not be trolled. Try as they might, doesn't affect them. Riding free as air, he buoyantly comes home through evening mists in a wide straw hat and cape. Straw hat and cape, Shanks from One Piece. Wherever he may go, he creates a fresh breeze. Charm or grace. While in his heart profound tranquility prevails. That sounds like a nice state of being. Now, we've also been looking at wondering about what would be with these 5 cognitive functions: materialism or strict dualism, opposing mind and self. Hey, if the religions are all lying, there mustn't be anything higher. There's just the physical world. So black-pilled nihilists, materialists, empiricists. Number 4, belief, our ignorance. Understanding. Number 3, knowing, which might be the 8th ox-herding picture, or the second hypothesis of Parmenides. And then our question, what would be the ultimate? What would be knowing the self completely? Now, from these cognitive functions that we can move through, develop, we've recognized, hey, the fundamental building blocks of understanding, perception, and existence, everything you've seen is a whole and a part, same and different than something else, is either at rest or in motion, and all of this stuff. If you draw a line and you're only in the lesser, you only see parts, that's a new kind of a spammer. I haven't seen that kind of spam before.
I'm a human, I don't listen to robots.
But I don't listen to robots.
The internet is all robots.
And you're
He's an AI guy.
You're an AI guy.
Dude, suck my dick.
And you can do what?
But you shut up. You shut the hell up for
Shut
a
the
second.
hell up.
You're not real.
You're not real.
Yes, you do get a buff for being perceived as attractive in the modern world. Looking like the stereotypical attractive quality of today.
I do? Well, that's very nice of you to say. But we're talking about the spammer.
I hate to have to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
It was fake. It was AI.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win.
No.
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be fucking insane.
You need to be an insane
And this
asylum.
is spam.
Spam. Why does that compliment in my insult package? Gotta fix that. All right. So, yeah, your only parts, everything is just stardust, physical things, blah, 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 blah. Only the physical world, only in time. Stage 5, materialism, or strict dualism. Never the twain shall meet. Belief, you're in this less, you accept the limits of your belief, you're always only in time. Your highest idea of oneness is a physical oneness, getting together and singing Kumbaya to Jeebas in a big church. which is why Trump always has rallies, because that's their idea of oneness, that's their highest idea of self. You are the lesser, at war or in conflict with the greater. Understanding has been our question. What would it be like to have your state of mind be at rest, or, in terms of the sixth oxoning picture, serene? Have the whole of the ox, you're no longer struggling, a state of mind of the whole. To be at rest, to be unlimited. To be the same, you can't be trolled. You'll never be out of that state of mind, even though people, the believers in their ignorance, human ignorance, every human goes through this, by the way. So anyone expressing an opposition to understanding or logos, or anyone showing a loyalty to their own belief way of being, usually cruel and smug, is just a human being like all other human beings on a certain stage of development. It's nothing personal. And it's completely understandable. They can't understand it because understanding requires to see the parts of... see the parts as a whole, and they're at war with the whole. No questions, no asking questions. They are unlike themselves. They only repeat catchphrases. They're not using their own mind. They're using buzzwords to sound smart, perchance. So our question is, what would it be like to have the whole, a state of mind here, and function providentially to the parts? That's understanding. The opposite of belief, to have the lesser and function negatively, harmfully to the whole. Let's delete the spammer.
It is spam. They are trying to convince them to flood the internet with spam.
How do I delete message? Spammer.
You moron. You absolute fucking
absolute
buffoon. You
fucking
goddamn
buffoon.
idiot.
Goddamn idiot.
But that's funny. It's like the whole business model is like, hey, we can trick black, and then hopefully we can trick people into thinking that these are real people to do like.
That's their whole business. So maybe we're getting an insight into what it would be like to be in the ideal state of understanding as a way of being in the sixth oxoning picture. Having had a glimpse, as Socrates had through music, in 3, having struggled to find the inherent patterns or harmony and apply them to yourself, in 4, the struggle to catch the ox. Having some success in taming the ox, but sometimes not, as those musicians who can sometimes tap into that wondrous state of being. In 5, taming the ox. All the way to this state of understanding or mastery in 6, riding the ox. Being able to sing the tunes to woodsmen and simple songs of the village children. Maybe. So this is the significance of having a map or understanding. We're able to have a look at what we looked at. Hey, we've looked at this like a bunch of times already. And we've read that section of Socrates. How did he get into philosophy? But now with the map, we can see it in a new light. We're learning every day. We're winning and winning and winning.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
I knew that though.
I love this guy.
Thank you. Why do you love me?
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Cool as a cuke.
We are very cool. So, right, so able to capture a beauty that moved my soul, bringing you from ignorance of 1 and 2 into 3, maybe Socrates, by this musician. There was a creation alive and present in the moment. Oh, in the moment, also, whoops. Okay, in the moment, that's a key word from a key term. Part of reading is looking for key terms that stand out. Number 3, first glimpsing the ox, and the instant he can see the source. So in the moment or in the instant. So it sounds like Socrates. This is called following the logos, by the way. As Socrates talks about either his highest experiences, like being enchanted by these musicians, or the blocks that come up, as Jesus has been doing, we don't have to do any work. In that, so long as we're just following the logos, or following the structure of the dialectic, and they populate the words. So they will tell us where they're at. Socrates saying, I was enchanted in that instant, and if the third ox herding pictures is called the first glimpse, and if he listens to the everyday sounds, listening, sounds, glimpse, realization in the instant, moment. It's following the words people use. That's why belief, one of the million reasons why belief is so sick. You don't get to speak. You're told what to think. You're preached at. Politicians give monologues. Journalists don't actually do interviews properly. They're not dialecticians. They should be. In other words, they give you the words. So when people repeat catchphrases because they're in a cult or in a group or whatever, and lo, Jesus said untoeth Peter, forsooth, you must kill women, for they are the cause of sin. You're just saying forsooth and lo because you think that's what being smart sounds like, perchance. But our job is to use our own words, because that's the clues, that's the blueprints, that's the footprints. So we've been using clues as a video game analogy to look for, look for the puzzle pieces in a Resident Evil or Silent Hill game. We've been looking for puzzle pieces for the games, clues for the Sherlock Holmes analogy, looking for clues to solve the puzzle. But now we can use this other analogy. Third, the ox. What's the clues that the ox exists? The footprints. The logos are the clues, the words we use. So, here we see Socrates using the words that we can recognize of the third ox herding picture. In the moment, only to disappear nearly as fast as it came into being. Sounds like a glimpse, doesn't it? They come in the instant, or the moment, and then to disappear. See, he's telling us. We're listening. Here to the logos, and following the logos. Here I could see that some musicians had reached out and were touched by something wondrous. Oh, they also have been through 3. And third ox. And this they brought into being from somewhere unknown. They can function through it. So they seem to be either at 5 or 6. Somewhere unknown even to themselves. Oh, so not complete mastery, so not quite 6, so maybe in 5. There I said to myself, must be something few want to acknowledge. How many people love understanding enough to develop themselves to know the higher states of being, or to capture, tame, and ride the ox? To glimpse, catch, tame, and ride. Glimpse. Number 1 is seek. Number 2, tracks. Find the tracks. Number 3, glimpse. Number 4, catch. Number 5, tame. Number 6, ride. There's a beauty that I realized emerged from a structure. Structure, looking for structure, looking to understand. Remember the end of number 3, after having a glimpse? What kind of artist could nail it down? Let's bring it up. I think I'm gonna have to do, no, it's fine. It takes me a second. Switch. The end of 3. What artist could portray the splendid head, those stately horns, that beautiful music I'm hearing, says Socrates. What artist could portray them? How can we nail it down? What's going on? I had this experience, this glimpse. What's going on? So that's the anticipation of its sequel, or the conclusion, or the hypoxis, the next stage. So in Socrates, going from having an experience to wondering about the order and structure seems to be his trying to catch the bull. So now we see maybe Socrates moving from 3 into 4. Also, this is good because we go through the same process. It's the map of human development. What gave you a glimpse? Was it seeing a beautiful streamer and wondering how the beautiful streamer is able to participate in understanding and solve problems, or gain glimpses of insight, or have fun in a higher way? Are you seeking the map and structure to nail it down for yourself and be like your famous, most beautiful streamer?
Brain rot escalate. I
No.
love this guy.
Because you love this guy? A structure that exhibits principles of harmony, reflecting the logos. Harmony, I hoped, was itself a reflection of some higher and truly existing order. Yes, within music, structure also is the structure of the logos. Everything, self, all reality. Harmony, I hoped, yep, read that. A reflection of a truly existing order and intelligibility. That's a key word, intelligibility. Able to be grasped with mind, which means both understanding and knowing, both logos and experience, or ousia. Logos and experience. Logos and ousia. Ousia, the fancy word that means to turn around and experience it directly as a whole. It might be dimly perceived, but nonetheless, there was there to be participated in. He's wanting to participate. He's in for. It was impossible to carry the music away, yet its beauty lingered. Ever encountered something like that? A lingering beauty after she is gone, or after you've experienced the music, or after you've had that higher experience of mind or glimpse? Lingered on after the last string was played. I knew then, interesting. I knew then that since there is beautiful music, that beauty must foreshadow an intelligence to cultivate, the promise of beauty, for there to be a beauty that we recognize, we're inspired by, we wonder about. What's it promising? What's behind it? What does it foreshadow? Or what's the depth of that beauty? What's the highest expression of that beauty? He's really trying to nail down that ox. And 4. There must be 2 intelligent forces, as I reasoned. One glimpse through music, and another more profound, waiting to be discovered. Oh, is that the footprints? Is he seeing the footprints? I noticed the footprints in music, but there maybe is an ox, an intelligible ox, so maybe ox is mind. For there to be these footprints, so maybe he's in 2. I'm noticing these footprints, and maybe these footprints foreshadow an intelligibility of a higher sense that's profound and waiting to be discovered. Notice you can move between stages. Potentially in any instant. These reflections were sufficient to end my kinship with my young friends. Finding no kinship with this group, I was, open to seek other views more akin to what I have found through beauty. Everything changed when the Fire Nation invaded. Everything changed when I heard someone at the Agora mention something that seemed so very strange to me. Yet it had an instant. Notice, certain keywords jump out at us now that we have been nailing down this map. And how do we nail it down? How do we tame the ox? Words, understanding, naming, finding the map. So, instant. It seemed strange, but it had an instant acceptance as something that must be true. A young woman whose voice rang with integrity and truth said it. She said, "The whole of God sees, thinks, and it's the whole that hears." Sounds like this is analogous to the music. A simple or beautiful expression of ordered reasoning in this statement, reflecting the simple, beautiful music that reflects the order and harmony of music. So Socrates was looking for a higher level of the beauty and harmony he experienced in music, and here he saw it with this woman. Notice, there are no bullshit hierarchies that place women below men. Garbage, that's garbage. A woman is participating in the logos, is inspiring him, is functioning through this higher art, higher even than music. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Don't tell the religious authorities, they will get mad and kill you maybe. A young woman whose voice, young woman, that's interesting. Interesting because normally when we point as an easy end to sexism, we point to Diotima, who is, along with Parmenides, was one of Socrates' spiritual teachers, a master of the dialectic too, giving us as well the yoga of beauty and love, through which we can follow the steps of the dialectic to, the 8th oxiding picture. And by the way, she says, and now from here you begin the rest of the journey, which would be, we would suspect, from the 8th to the other side of heaven, or from 8th through the 9th and 10th, to develop true virtue, she says. But that's the symposium. You can skip ahead to Socrates' speech. In the symposium, there's a lot of fun stuff, and then leading up to where they all give speeches about what they think beauty and love is. But then they play a game. Everyone's going to give a speech about beauty and love who's at this party. Symposium means drinking party. And Socrates is going to go last. So you can skip past, if you want, all of the other speeches given by the ignorant people, because that's just expressions of different levels of ignorance. Go all the way to Socrates if you want, and get the actual instruction from Diotima about beauty and love and the yoga. A understandable harmony or structure that you can yourself practice to develop through your natural attraction to beauty or love. So this is different because it's a young woman. It's not a master, or maybe she's a master, but she's young. A young woman whose voice rang with integrity and truth said it. She said, "The whole of God sees, thinks, and it's the whole that hears." Ooh. Can we recognize that expression within the oxiding pictures? Let's see. Here we go, number 3. The 6 senses are no different from this true source. And in every activity, the source is manifestly present, like salt in salt water. When the inner vision is properly focused, one comes to realize that which is seen is identical with the true source. So the 6 senses being a true source, or seeing, hearing, thinking, the whole of those senses is God. So if you're not focused on shapes and colors with your vision, or specific shapes and colors, you're not identifying specific sounds, you're not paying attention to specific thoughts. But now we are doing that. That's the dialectic, of course, to move from the many to the one, by paying attention to the specific words or the specific shapes and colors that distract us, our pathologos. Listen to the specific sounds or words that lead us up or down. So the specifics is the dialectic, but at the same time, we balance it with this quote, which is actually, we mentioned Diotima and Parmenides as Socrates' teacher. Parmenides' teacher was Xenophanes. It's Xenophanes' quote. So while following or taming the ox through the logos, the dialectic, we can also balance that with the whole, parts and whole, Apollo and Aphrodite, by keeping this question, or koan, to use a Buddhist expression, a question you can carry at all times. What is the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking? Or, which may help you have a glimpse of the ox, because the 6 senses are one single sense, and it's the true source. The true source, the whole of God. See, very, very similar to the 3rd oxonic picture. Now, this young woman is saying that the 6 senses, or the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking, is God. Let's see where the story goes. Dun, dun. She said, the whole of God sees, thinks, and it's the whole that hears. I recall vividly that it caused me to turn about and wonder. Ooh, like the musician. If I could carefully watch each thought and each thing I say and hear. Oh. So it's not just hearing it, it's carrying it and doing it. If he carefully watches each thought and each thing he says and hears, he can turn himself about, ousia, and wonder. If so, I could discover what it was that was experiencing these things. Oh, the ox or the self. Surely after these questionings, I could easily see that what was doing these things was one, and not a warring God that drives a terrible fury within one's soul. Awakened, the name of the channel.
These absolute duller, if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Filled with secrets. Awakened to learn more, I heard that Heraclitus had said, wisdom is one, to know the intelligence by which all things are steered through all things. The intelligence by which all things are steered. Steer. It's a bull. Is that the... Wisdom is to know the bull? Wisdom is to know the ox? Is the ox the pure intelligence that gives its footprints in the logos that we can perceive in anything, including music? This very notion of the one intrigued me, said Socrates, and when I heard that Parmenides was to visit Athens, I knew what course I must by all means follow. He came with Zeno. Xenu. Not Xenu from Dragon Ball. Xeno. Different. He came with... Oh, garbage.
Jesus Christ, Emma.
Jesus Christ, Emma.
Bless you. Excuse you. Bless you.
Excuse you, says Emma back to Iron
That's
Girl.
awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. And then...
Dude, suck my dick.
Oh my goodness.
Cool as a cuke. Wow.
My head is quite large.
Filled with secrets. This very notion of the one intrigued me. Oh yeah, read that. He came with Zeno, and he led us through his idea, through which all became clear to me. For what else was left for me than to see what he saw, to realize what he had brought us to see. His method was... dialectic.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know. And that was enough for me to realize that to know the mind through the mind is to realize its very source. Wow. Holy fuck. Good for you, Socrates. Grew up with this very, very standard bullshit from religious believers because it's brainless. There are good guys and there are bad guys. Bad things are because devil made you do it, and good things are because God, and just that's it, and just kill devil and be slave to God. Bollocks. No meaning there, no learning there, no development there, just ignorance and a conflict against all those who are... There's no escape from the conflict, and believers fight against all those who oppose them. No meaningful alternatives. Then music, oh my goodness, there is something transcendent that these musicians can touch and even function through to create in the moment, but then gone. But the afterglow of beautiful experiences, after intense, intimate experiences or beautiful experiences or inside experiences, the afterglow happens where you can reflect on everything that you experienced, whether it's a trip or anything else. That's what we're doing here. That's what Socrates is doing. He reflected in the afterglow. Remember the diatema? Remember Diatema's instruction? Love and logos. Whatever beautiful experiences you have with your beloved, use the afterglow of the experience to put logos on it. Give speeches about your beloved. And then once you can see that the higher level of beauty is beauty of the soul, put words on it that benefit. Share words with your beloved that benefit the soul, that improves the soul. Notice, love and logos. The experience of the beauty of the person or experience or soul in the instant, or ox in the instant, and the development, the rope capturing the ox, the putting of understanding on it in the reflection. So there is a lingering curiosity. What is it? Lingering. There's a beauty that lingered long after the last string was played. So getting a glimpse through music, wondering about its source, number one, and wondering about the structure. There's the whole and parts. Is source the whole? Source is the cause, isn't it? The beauty of the whole, the order of the parts, harmony, and its source beyond it. What does beauty promise? The promise of beauty. What is it here? The word for the promise that beauty has, or something beyond it, is foreshadowing of something higher. See a beautiful sunset. One of the things that inspires us is something some promise. There's something behind it that it's reminding me of, or pointing to, or making me wonder about. So, from heaven and hell, war, ignorance, suffering, conflict, bullshit, an alternative offered by a musician, participating in something beyond themselves, but being able to function with, to bring into the moment, that demonstrates harmony of ordered parts, beauty of its simplicity, or wholeness, and foreshadowing a greater intelligence behind it to allow these things to exist, and for two different people to participate in it. Or to refer back to Diotima again, beauty of physical experiences, but then recognizing that the deeper beauty is the beauty of a soul. Now he has a similar experience, not of sense like music, but of mind, where a young woman talks about or shares a similar harmony and beauty, talking about ideas. The whole of God sees, hears, and thinks, and it's the whole that hears. And so long as he actually pays attention to her, listens to her, it's another thing. It's not just a matter of having an experience of a beautiful bit of reasoning like that, or a beautiful piece of music. It's, can you reflect on it? Add logos. Usia and logos, reflection and understanding. And so long as he did apply it, he was able to turn about and wonder, so long as he was carefully watching each thought and everything he said and heard. And he could have experience, he could actually discover what's doing the experiencing, what's the ox that's giving rise to these footprints. Or maybe what's beyond the ox. Two possibilities, two kinds of higher experiences, mind and self. Surely after these questionings, I could see that what it was doing these things was one. It's one whole. Now, we've talked about there being different ideas of one that can define the cognitive functions. For example, people who are at the lowest stage, materialism, their highest idea of one is a physical thing, an atom. So all beauty and all love is just atoms and molecules squirting in the brain. Reductionism, reducing things to its simplest, meaningless one. Rembrandt is just $4 of paint on a $10 canvas. That's all. There is no beauty or higher meaning. But that's an idea of one. Now notice, everyone's idea of one, as we've seen, we've got three basic forces that guide our soul. Our desire for the good or goodness to bring into ourselves. We want to eat a lovely sandwich. Our desire for truth in what we seek. We want to be known truthfully for doing things well and truthfully and honorably. And the things that we seek, we want to get the real thing and not be conned or duped. But also the other force of the soul, so there's the inward, the outward, and the reasoning that plans for both. To reason, to understand things, to bring it into a one. That's why naming is so important. It brings it into a one. You've understood it. That's a duck. I have this chicken feet. I have chicken wings. I have beak. I have little eyesies. And a butt. And just a butt. Bring it together into a one. It's a chicken.
These absolute dullards, borderline chimps, who want to kiss a fox.
It's not a chimp or a fox. It's a chicken.
Absolutely goop. If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
No, it's a lovely chicken.
The more holes, the better.
Personality maxing requires you to look inward.
No, that's too long.
You're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave.
You're brave.
You are crossing into new boundaries.
New boundaries of understanding a chicken by putting a name on it and making it one. So our understanding or reasoning brings things into a oneness. And within these three groups, we've got a category or a set of selfers or self-logos terms that are the building blocks of understanding, experience, perception, and existence. And we've used these these members of the team of oneness that we seek with understanding to understand the different cognitive functions. Materialists are just this only. Believers are this at war with the lesser at war with the greater. Understanding has this as a state of mind, maybe the sixth octating picture, functioning most ideally towards the parts. And of course, the eighth octating picture would be the whole of all parts, the experience of knowledge. And we were wondering about what would the state of self be. Now, notice each of them is a kind of one. For materialists, their highest idea of one is just a part. We're all just atoms or molecules. Now that means their way of understanding not just the world or mind or reality, but also themselves. So if that's your highest idea of one, they're only parts, then that's your highest idea of yourself, because to think of yourself, that's also one thing, in that it's something. You're distinguishing self from other things. I'm not the chicken. Myself is different from the chicken. So what's the self? If it's something, it has to be some sort of a thing. And everything is some sort of one. Therefore, your highest one would be also your limit of how you know yourself. It's another way of seeing where people are at on the octating pictures. What's your highest idea of one? Materialists, or reductionists, or strict dualists that say none of that, nothing whole or meaningful, their highest idea of one is a part. For believers, their highest idea of one is a oneness of physical things. All of the Christians singing Kumbaya to Jesus, all of the Mormons singing, what do the Mormons sing? I don't know. Joseph Smith is amazing. All of the Muslims saying Kumbaya to Allah. All of the Jews singing Kumbaya to Moses, Abraham, whoever. All of the cultists singing Kumbaya to the dear leader who gets to sleep with everyone's wives and gets all the money. Like every other fucking cult religion too. Not just wives for most religions. And not just religion, political parties based on belief. Right-wingers. So, their highest idea of oneness is also their highest idea of self. That's why MAGA always has rallies, and you have to go to church to sing Kumbaya to get your fix. Therefore, a different idea of one for understanding. A one that's both whole and parts, as a state of mind and as a functioning. Knowledge, a oneness, the highest kind of oneness of the greatest whole of the greatest parts, the whole of all parts, or free, or out of time that contains everything in time. Whole, greatest whole of all parts. So all of the positives here, together with all the positives here. And then of course the question mark about what the higher state of self is. This is the octating picture 8. What about 9 and 10? So that's understanding the different cognitive functions that people can function through by definition. It's not opinion or belief or any of that garbage. It's using these objective universal principles or self-ers and understand the possible ways they can relate by definition. So when we say, hey, people are good in spite of religion, it's not a personal opinion. It's because religion functions by definition as an accepted limit. If you're a Mormon, you can only do this, and you can only wear these underpants, and you can't read Harry Potter. And anyone who says you can be free are evil and the devil and will go to hell, and we can even kill them. That's the principle of all religion. MAGA is only for the rich, and they have to agree to protect the powerful what's the safe way of saying it for YouTube? Fretophiles, and accept the limitations. You can't help anyone. You can't help the majority. You have to murder people for the billionaires. And anyone who says protests against ICE or protests against tyranny, you murder them. You are at war with people who want freedom. Always. That's why we shouldn't ever, ever, ever have a right-wing political party. It's just the Pathologos party. The only possible benefit it could serve is to surface all of the human clan loyalty to ignorance and harm towards ourselves and our species and planet, so that we can surface it, look at it, resolve it, and do our fucking job as human beings to surface all possible pathologos family clan belief traditions that oppose our own benefit and truth, so we can understand why it came up, the root sources, help all individuals trapped in this or that cult or religion or whatever belief structure, and also create the conditions of society where we can help everyone go through those stages of those oxiding pictures to free themselves of ignorance and develop happiness, truth, insight, development, both for this life and the next. Now, that's not an opinion that you can vote for. That's just the truth that we've got by understanding. Notice, opinions are about belief, down in ignorance, belief in materialism. Understanding is for everyone. That's why it's a map. That's why anyone can be a mechanic. That's why anyone can be a pilot. It's not belief. You don't have to kill other pilots to get your pilot's license. Anyone can play. That's what it means to be rational. What we are seeing is this is our pilot license for the soul. Reading these books in this kind of a way. Understanding. It's always the same. For everyone. Don't have to kill anyone. In fact, it's the opposite of killing. You are in this state of mind of the greater, benefiting, functioning providentially to help anyone, depending on what part they're at, what stage they're at, what limit they're at, or what stage of the oxiding pictures they're at. So, Socrates is realizing that, hang on a second, if I listen to this beautiful young lady and reflect on the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking, by watching my own thoughts and what I say and carefully watching each thought and everything I say and hear, I can discover what is experiencing those things, and it wasn't at war, the cognitive function of belief. It was a one. Now our question is, what kind of one? Is it a oneness of knowledge? The greatest whole of the greatest parts? Or was it a even higher kind of one that's a pure one that transcends even parts or qualities? To use the Venn diagram, if we've got whole and parts here, we've got the lesser, the parts only, materialism and belief. We've got the greater, understanding and mind, because it's the whole of all parts. So there's the overlap of whole and parts. And then we've got this area of self. What is a pure one? That's a whole defined by not having any parts, or the same defined by not being touched by anything different, or being out of time, not by having out of time everything that will happen in time, eternity of mind, divine luminosity, but transcending even time itself, or the instant between each gap of each moment in our experience of time that we have in our physical world, that which everything is created and returned to every microsecond. What's that? So that's a question that we can have about Socrates here. When he listens to this beautiful young lady and wonders about the whole, is it beautiful, obviously, because of her beautiful soul, to be able to communicate and talk in this kind of a way. That's why I'm inferring beauty. Young woman, beautiful young woman, voice rang with integrity and truth. If I listen and carefully watch each thought and everything I say in here, I could discover what it was that was experiencing these things. It was not a warring god driving a terrible fury, pathologos, or belief. It was one. Awakened to learn more, I heard Heraclitus say that wisdom is one to know. So you're not fighting, you're not an evil, the light side and the dark side within yourself, devil fighting the angels. The best way of understanding those things would be as an analogy to understand the removal of pathologos, belief-based ignorance. But then at the end of that story, you realize it was one the whole time. It was just the illusion of a lesser kind of one that you were taking for the self. Ignorance. Belief materialism. The wisdom is one to know the intelligence by all things and steered through all things. This notion of, so what kind of a one? Is it a pure one? Is it the one of all parts? Is it intelligence or is it self? This notion of the one intrigued me. And when I heard that Parmenides came to visit with Zeno, I knew I must follow. He led us through... He came with Zeno and he led us through his idea, the pure one self, the first hypothesis. That's why we're calling these cognitive functions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because they reflect the 5 different dialectics or different dialogues that Parmenides had with Socrates' friend Aristoteles. Because he gives the first one, the pure one self, Aristoteles says, I don't reckon. He goes, okay, I'm not going to explore your block. I am going to give you a dialectic on each of the other possible ways of thinking about a one that you would then apply to the self. So the second hypothesis, the one that is, because the true pure one is beyond existence, transcends existence, the cause of existence. So we can even do the Venn diagram. There is the self and that existence. So the self that exists would be the second hypothesis, the overlap of that Venn diagram. Third, understanding. Fourth, belief. And fifth, strict dualism. That's why we give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why can't I ever delete this one? Do it that way. Oh, okay. That's why. It's already deleted. So if I'm undoing the delete. Alright, so. So following his idea, it could be made clear. Oh, so the method of following the ox-herding pictures from a glimpse, either through music or through a beautiful soul expressing beauty and harmony of reasoning, encouraging self-reflection, through to its development and mastery, perfection, maybe mastery in 6, perfection in 8, and moving through to the other side in 9 and 10. What's the method? How do we find the ox? Follow the ox footprints, capture the ox, tame the ox. Fuck. Is that the birds outside? Curlews. They sing. They're very, very cute. Little curlew birds. They're very funny. They love music too. They love to sing and dance, which is very cute. Glimpsing the ox. Catching the ox. Taming the ox and riding. Okay, taming. I forgot taming. Pew! Pew! Okay, so the way of going through those, the dialectic. The dialectic. His method was dialectic, and the art that Socrates suspected was even behind the pattern, order, structure, harmony of music. How do we make use of these terms, self terms, building blocks? Let me just make sure the board doesn't go off the side. With the basic structure, which has 4 steps. What's a good example? The dialectic on the board. 4 steps of the dialectic. Here we go. Whether the thing does exist or whether the thing doesn't. Definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. Or what we're looking for in the oxidizing pictures. What's the thing itself? How do we experience it? What's our state of mind when we experience it? How does that therefore divide up into other kinds of functionings? Division. Having experienced the thing and been affected by the thing, how then do we relate to other things? And then as a result of all of those journey, how do we turn back around, having gone through that whole experience, the thing, had the state of mind, function through it in all possible ways, how do we then relate back? Conclusion. Now what we're seeing is the conclusion in the ox-herding pictures is we relate back to the ox on a higher level. So we have the glimpse of the ox, state of mind, function as a result, and our conclusion, having gone through that, is to relate back to the ox in a higher way. We're no longer glimpsing it, we are... Why do I always forget this one? We are not glimpsing the ox anymore, we are catching the ox. And as we catch the ox, we encounter something, state of mind, a functioning, and then we relate back to the ox to tame the ox. Now also, the conclusion could be negative. If we have a block, we could say, what if it doesn't exist? So for each of these categories, what if the object under question doesn't exist? What would we be encountering if beauty was just appearance? What would our state of mind be? How would we function, and how would we relate back to beauty itself? But we're talking about, beauty itself, but also mind, the ox. We can't tame the ox. What artist could nail down this glimpse? Now that could be a curious wondering, what would we need to nail it down? What is the harmony behind the music? Can lead up. Or the conclusion be, what kind of artist could really understand music? It's all magic and inspiration. I can't do it. No one can do it. I give up. There's your block. Same question, what artist could portray this ox that I've had a glimpse of? What musician could understand this music that I've had a glimpse of? But notice, one way of approaching that question is with openness and curiosity and wonder and seeking understanding. That's what leads you up. Questions and answer seeking, dialectic. One is a certainty that it's impossible. That's belief. Smugness or confidence in your ignorance. I just know. You don't know shit. You're here to learn. No, I know you can't. My daddy said you can't, and if you could, then my daddy was an idiot because he accepted religion, or he was a fool because he accepted a life of physical things and didn't ever wonder about mind. And I would never question that. I would never question my dear MAGA leader, or my dear preacher, or my dear imam, my dear etc. Believing some other bullshit. Believing someone else. Believe. So, same conclusion at the end of each ox-herding picture. One potentially beneficial, one reflecting your own block. Now you can understand that block, that's midwifery. The dialectic can then be applied to the block. Or you can recognize you're in a block if you've pointed to it and sidestep it. Promise to get back to it another time to solve that puzzle and get back to the dialogue and move upward. Logos and pathologos. Understanding and wonder, belief and certainty. That's it, just those two things. And dreams give you information about both. Play out a dialectic, giving you things you encounter, metaphors, giving you states of mind that are either positive or negative. Play out a drama in your dreams of the implications or the division of either of those, leading to a conclusion at the end of the story, at the end of the scene, at the end of the scene in the dream, whether you reach success or failure. That's why it's the greatest dialectician and the ideal version of this art we're here to master, the dialectic. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. Win-win-win-win-win.
I think it's so awesome.
So awesome.
Bless you. Excuse you. Bless
Bless.
you. Do a poggers.
Bless and do a poggers to all of us. And my head is full.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
That's funny. All right. Enough brain rot.
Awesome, man. Cool as a cuke.
Let's keep our cool as a cuke. All right. So the dialectic was that structure, those four things applied to if it is or if it isn't, using ideally these terms within that structure. What's the whole of beauty? What are the parts? We just did that with music, didn't we? The whole of the song, the beauty and the simplicity. What's the parts? The order, the structured harmony. What's it the same as? Is it point to a higher order of dialectic and logos? What's it different to? Songs that do not move the soul. Is it in motion? Yep. Is it at rest? Well, after we play it in motion, it's gone because it's only physical. But even after the last note is played, it still lingers. Is it limited? Well, it is kind of limited in that you have to play the notes, but it's kind of free in that they're channeling something higher. Is it in time? The beauty of music? Well, it is, so long as you're playing it, but it's out of time in that they're channeling something higher that exists eternally, and even your memory or the afterglow of that experience lingers after the last note is played. So you notice, that's if it does exist. What if it doesn't? What if I was just being tricked? What if it was the devil of belief? Or what if it was just chemicals of materialism? Or what if it was just, notice, either materialism or strict dualism and belief are in this section. The part that does not touch the whole is the whole up here. So what if, and that's the physical world of becoming. Only. No participation in the whole of mind or the whole of self. So that would be, what if beauty of music doesn't exist over here? Socrates took this journey, and that experience of music led him to an experience of harmony and beauty of mind and meeting that beautiful young lady. And that led him to a Heraclitus, who talked about wisdom of intelligence. That led him to Parmenides, that took him from that to the one self through the dialectic. He didn't fall into this category of ignorance. There was something special about Socrates that kept him wondering about causes, keeping an open, curious mind, seeking the pattern of the parts, the harmony, the order, and the whole that it comes together and functions through, and its cause leading him to develop, according to what Socrates told about how he reached his ultimate enlightenment through mastering the dialectic. I would guess that perhaps he may have had a midwife to help him every time he was blocked. Every time he jumped into, oh no, it doesn't exist. You can't understand. You can't know. There is no higher meaning. And I'm certain because my daddy says so or my mummy says so. Now, I'm making fun of that because it's stupid and irrational as a principle, but I'm not making fun of every person, any individual who has that way of thinking, because every single human being does, because like it or not, we grow up from babies. Babies are not master dialecticians yet. Or kind of. In other words, to survive our upbringing stuck with the ignorance of our own parental figures within a society that's full of ignorance and religious influences that are full of ignorance, we take the blame because we don't know any better to save our images of our loved ones. And that taking the blame is a false image of self and reality that makes sense of their injustice without blaming them, who should be blamed, because they're the ones in ignorance, causing our pathologos belief of ourselves, meaning every human being, so long as you were once a baby, has this negative side, even Socrates. So when we make fun of the absurd, ignorant rationality of belief or materialism, we're not making fun of any individual person, because then we'd be making fun of every single human person. We're making fun of the ignorance of the pathologos itself by saying, Mummy and Daddy said so, so it's right, and then doing this noise, and then playing this drop.
You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You
Goddamn idiot.
You've been a bad little girl. You're getting vigorous spanking.
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be fucking checked into an insane
asylum.
You have the...
They're completely lying to you. They're completely lying.
What if a chimp had a cell phone? Who would he call?
I don't know who a chimp would call. Stop asking me. Alright. So, the method of going from these kinds of glimpses, either from a taste of harmony, intelligibility through music, the footprints of the ox through music, and then through question about the whole of God or mind that sees, to, by the way, is there a higher wisdom that knows and functions through the intelligence and steers through it? So there's a mind that watches, a mind that functions, and then Parmenides, by the way, the cause of mind that transcends even mind is the one self, and you won't go through this journey unless you are going through the dialectic, which is just simply, the skill of dialogue thinking. His method was the dialectic, and that was enough for me to realize that to know the mind through the mind is to realize its very source. To know the mind through the mind sounds like as for dreams, they played a major role in my life, but they came after I learned about the Parmenides. Makes sense, because if he learnt the dialectic, and dialectic is the language or the method to unpack the meaning of dreams, then you won't see the significance of your dreams unless you're seeing the significance of the dialectic. Which is why, in principle, we put our journey through causes, the 5 causes, the soul has to be reading to discover that there is a pattern behind the logos. That pattern's a dialectic. Only in that can you realize there's something called the dialectic. There is a structure of reasoning. Therefore, the best activity you can participate in as mind, a receptive mind in the activity of the dialectic to remove what's false or perfect what's true. And your ideal functioning would be someone who facilitates that. Riding the ox would be the dialectician. And only with going through this process of the dialectic with a dialectician, like Socrates did with Parmenides, can you learn the dialectic for yourself that you then can apply to dreams. Therefore, reading and talking to the people, musicians, the young lady talking about Xenophanes, and Heraclitus talking about wisdom, that leads you to the dialectic, like Parmenides, and only with the dialectic can you have the method of unpacking your dreams, so dreams come next. So from soul to mind to self, because to be a self receptive to being ruled or to following the logos of your dream maker, can you participate in the ultimate activity, dream analysis, and learn to function as the greatest possible human functioning, the dream analysis dialectician, and discover there is even a paradigm to that of self that the dream maker must know maybe of himself, and uses that model to help the self-development of every living being by creating every dream. Leading ultimately to unify self with, to be in union with something higher than even man, while being able to function as a human, to unify possibly with the self or the dream maker as the final goal of all of that effort. Now, what's interesting is we've got Socrates saying, hey, To know the mind through the mind is to realize its source. Notice, the thing being known is the mind. The thing knowing the mind is the mind. The activity, the dialectic, is the mind. So through mind as the activity, by mind as the experiencer, of mind as the object being experienced, the doer, the doing, and the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing are all the same thing, which sounds just like the language of, let's pull it up. Oh, I gotta open it first. I'm gonna open it again. Hold, please. Hold, champ. Pause, champ. So the union sounds like what we saw in the oxiding picture. So it sounds like through, well, let's have a look at it. Rope, person, and ox all merge as no thing. So what have we been seeking? The ox. Who's been seeking? The person. How have we been seeking to tame the ox? Through the rope. So there's the rope, I guess, would be the activity of mind, the dialectic, following the logos. The thing that's experiencing it, the person, was actually the mind the whole time. The whole of seeing and hearing and thinking, the whole of mind, which the young lady said was actually God. That's the divine mind. Your mind, not your mind, that mind. It's the same mind, pal. Imagine realizing that. Very different from you are evil, and you are a small bean, and you are a bad noodle. Fuck off belief. To you we say,
Dumbass.
Dumbass. And we say,
Dude, suck my dick.
Yes.
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
And you've been a child. Because we realize and understand for ourselves, in 8, we are the divine. It's mind. But that, so what Socrates said, or countered, after his experience with going through the dialectic with Parmenides, is mind minding mind, all as a oneness. The analogy that we have from the oxiding pictures of 8 would be that experience of person roping ox, mind minding mind, all as one. So now we've got more of an understanding of what 8 is. The divine luminosity, it seems. This heaven is so vast that no message can stain it. How may a snowflake exist in the raging fire? How can your pathologos bullshit beliefs from family, culture, religion, upbringing exist in the actual experience of your own true nature of mind, self-knowing itself as mind, or mind minding mind? Pure Usia. Not pure Usia, the greatest experience of Usia. Because there is a possibility of a purer Usia of self-knowing itself beyond 8. There are still 2 more oxiding pictures. Also, here are the footprints of the ancestors. In other words, in that ultimate experience of beauty, which Diotima leads Socrates through the love and logos dialogue, is the beginning to a further stage of development to the true nature of self. In other words, there is a logos or footprints inherent. So the footprints maybe is the logos, the rope maybe is the dialectic. There is an inherent intelligibility or logos within that experience of pure mind, divine luminosity or beauty itself. Because remember, there's what's experienced, state of mind, how it functions, and the anticipation of the next. The footprints of the ancients exist through there, meaning the ancients walked through this gateway. Both ox and self-forgotten, all delusive feelings have perished. Freedom from the pathologos in this experience. And ideas of holiness too have vanished. He lingers not in the state of, I am a Buddha, and he passes quickly on through the stage of, and now I have purged myself of the proud feeling that I am not the Buddha. Even the thousands, I think that talks to people who join spirituality for ego reasons, or pride or something like that. Here there are people like that out there. I've never got that myself, but there you go. It's interesting. I wonder if it's because I've never been in a culture with people who value this. And because I grew up in an Australian culture where and British and Australian people have a joke where you can make fun of yourself by pretending like you think you're good at something. But the underlying assumption is, we know you're just pretending. Which is why Australians are very dubious of celebrities like, who's the guy who plays Thor? Like Australian actors who have success in America, there's a tendency to look at them like, oh, you tricked those Yankees. You tricked them into them thinking you're good. Tall poppy syndrome, call it here. Wonder if that's why this has never been something that I've really been into. But it's interesting to see people from other cultures who do have that celebrity sort of thing, to be really on the hunt for that. And I guess suffering from it themselves. Interesting. But also, I guess it could be a pathologos thing as well. Look at how great a Buddhist I am with my orange robes and my shaved head, and I'm chanting my symbols. It's interesting. Also speaks to the idea that you have to, in the dialectic, you follow the other person's logos. Because you may have grown up in an American culture or whatever, where celebrity's a big thing, or you're around people who like to seem spiritual because of pride. Doesn't mean the person that you are in has that problem. The person you're talking to in the dialogue has that problem. That's why we follow the logos. What comes up for them? It's something I've been interested in for a while because I never understood those people. No, I mean, I understand them. I've never related to them. I just think it was a fun game and we can play it and all benefit. Hooray! Not, I'm better oh, interesting. I was gonna say, not I'm better than you, but you would be better. If you're an 8, you'd be better than someone in 7. But not in this kind of a way. So it's not in a false identity with self. You're just going through the game and having fun, I hope. So you're not lingering in the state of, look at how great I am as a Buddha, and not look at how great I am from purging my proud feelings of being Buddha. So again, you're not caught in that rat race cycle of running around chasing pride, I guess. Which is interesting because you're also not unpride. You don't diminish your accomplishments. Not humble. Humbleness is another sickness. You have to acknowledge where you're at and celebrate where you're at. And like, if you was like, oh, I'm just as ignorant as the people in my veterinary waiting room, I couldn't possibly do surgery on your puppy, then you can't help the puppy. You have to acknowledge where you're at and what you can and can't do. And that you are better at being a vet to be able to benefit the people in helping cure their puppy. So it's not, it's interesting. I guess it's just seeing what is. Oh, okay, this is what it is, and this is how you get there. And it'd be neat if everyone could be vets of the soul. Even the 1,000 eyes of the 500 Buddhas and patriarchs can discern in him no specific quality, no more pathologos belief, false image of the self. You're just knowing yourself properly, fully. If 100 birds were to strew flowers about his room, he could not but feel ashamed of himself. But I'm wondering if that would be, he wouldn't even feel ashamed of himself. I wonder if that's a mistranslation. I think it might be. Whip, because why would you be ashamed of yourself? Hooray, birds are happy that you can sing to them well. I talked about singing to the curlews. They love to dance and sing. They're really funny little birds. So cute. Because they run, they have these stick legs and they run and they get excited and they run past you and they run past you again. Actually, that's younger people when I'm playing music do that sometimes. They'll like run past you and they get a quick look because they're a bit shy, and then they run past you again. And then when they get brave, they maybe stand a bit closer and then they'll do a little dance. That's best. I love when people dance. Dancing is so cute. Whip, rope, and ox alike belong to emptiness. Now, again, that might be a specific logos that, as it's from Buddhism, or maybe the English translation, emptiness wouldn't be correct. Oneness, maybe. Emptiness has certain other connotations. Nihilism. What is empty? So vast and infinite. The azure, pure blue sky that no concept of any sort can reach it. Mind knowing itself beyond concepts. Notice the ideas, eideos, are not concepts. They are the nouns, the essences, the aspects of pure mind. The self-logos that we had on the board a moment ago, these guys. The study of the aspects of divine luminosity, or mind, minding mind, or person, rope, and ox all together as one experience is understood with these things: whole, part, same, difference, justice, beauty, goodness, etc. Because these are all aspects of that same oneness. Notice a mistranslation of those that we are incorrectly taught at schools is forms. That's a terrible translation by an ignorant translator. And also concepts. They're not concepts. They have their existence as aspects of 8. No concept can reach it. Over a blazing fire, a snowflake could survive. So lots of analogies that we can notice. These aren't literal, it's not actually a fire, but we're looking for the analogies. That's the first thing. What's encountered? Fire, metaphor of luminosity. See? Light. What's not there? Snowflake. What causes people to be a snowflake? They're pathologos. Who are the snowflakes? People tied to religion or belief, or right-wingers, fascists, those sort of people. They're the real snowflakes. And they call other people snowflakes because they're projecting their pathologos ignorance. That's how belief works. It's project. You project your problem onto others and respond to it in a similar way. That's the stuck in your problem. So pathologos can't survive luminosity, where mind minds mind, or person, roping, ox are all together as a pure light. And yeah, why would you have ashamed or humbleness or excessive pride if there is nothing, no image to attach those things to? Just what is. When this state of mind is realized, at last comes comprehension of the spirit of the ancient patriarchs. So back to Socrates. In his journey, we have a curiosity about the oneness that's watching from this young lady. And Heraclitus talks about the wisdom is to know the intelligence. So that experience of 8 would be wisdom, through which all things are steered. But now he's able to experience it because of his own dialectic, with going through the dialectic with Parmenides, To realize that to know the mind through the mind is to realize its very source. So that wisdom experience of mind, minding mind, or man, rope, ox, together is wisdom. And it's the very thing that it's the map or paradigm for all things, through which all things are governed. And therefore, for our soul, we want to be governed by that paradigm of wisdom. And again, demand the same for any spiritual, so no more religion, just spiritual people who have an understanding of this paradigm of 8. And same thing for political leaders. No more folksy beliefs, people trying to manipulate you to scam you and murder you for the profits of fuckers, to whom we say,
What the hell's wrong with you people? Sick freaks.
Sick freaks. Just having an understanding of the paradigm. Just as a mechanic benefits only the car, surgeon benefits only the patient, so too every spiritual and political leader must only benefit those who, to whom they have leadership over, and never becoming rich or famous themselves. Ever, ever, ever. If they do, you're not qualified. You're not an 8. You're taking excessive pride, or you're still in ox herding picture 1, seeking worldly gain. That's just what it is. Every species will come to realize this, because this is an eternal paradigm. That's what understanding is about. So it's a matter of whether we as a species pay attention. So, but again, that's just a species thing. For us, we can pay attention. This is our own journey. We move through this as our own individual soul. Ideally with friends to play the game with, because it's a win-win-win and it's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Awesome, man.
It's awesome.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
Also a good point by Emma.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know about peanuts. So through the dialectic we can merge logos, rope, mind, person, ox, or person. Our soul seeking would be the person, the mind, the ox, and the logos, all merging into a oneness through the dialectic that we experience with Parmenides. But there has to be someone along the way making you curious about it, whether it's a musician playing his lovely guitar in the street or in the club, or it's a beautiful young lady sharing understanding and reflection in a remarkable and rare way, or whether it be someone like Heraclitus, which I guess would be the books that we read. There has to be something leading you to seek yourself. Socrates had to see. There's another thing. For this level of participation and reflection requires you to have some sort of preconditions met. Socrates had to go out of his way to seek Parmenides. In other words, you can't tell people this. They have to come to you. Otherwise, they're just going to be pissed. Well, I believe in this and I fucking hate you saying that. Fuck you, I'm gonna beat you up. Garbage. You can leave my stream. You can not listen to me play music. Go do something else. Fuck off. We can say to
You
you,
moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
goddamn idiot. Maybe not that. Maybe. Socrates had to have these prior experiences. He had to show an interest in self-development prior to meeting Parmenides, to show he's actually genuinely interested in learning. He's not bullshitting, he's not wasting people's time. And if you read the Parmenides takes a while to be convinced whether or not to do this dialectic. He had to keep an eye on Socrates because he was having good conversations with people. He's genuinely interested in learning and talking. He values the logos. He's applying it to himself. So not only interested in dialogue and learning, but self-development. He's applying it to himself. He brought his own questions and puzzles. As a precondition to participate in this kind of level of dialectical dialogue. He had to have shown that he's in his past, he's put effort into self-development. He's become curious about music. He's overcome his false beliefs, or he's seen through at least his false beliefs about heaven and hell bullshit. We're always at war. Kill or be killed. Grind set. Get your bag. Bootstraps your way. Bullshit. Fuck off. He's seen through that. He has gone out of his way to not just experience music and the intelligence of this young woman, but to reflect on them. Why was she able to do this? Why was the musician able to play like that? What's the pattern that they had? What were they participating in? How could they have seen the things that they see, anticipated the next moments in some kind of a way without pre-watching it or looking ahead? How are they able to function this way? So, showed a prior interest in learning for himself, showed a prior discipline and effort into development of his own self-development, shown an interest in conversation, genuinely good faith, demonstrated with how he talks to other people, shown a desire to actually apply it to himself. And Parmenides even says, oh, you seem to have a natural affinity or skill or aptitude for this kind of thing. So that's another reason why I want to talk to you. To go through these stages leading up to the kind of dialectic or level of dialogue that he can play with, participate in with Parmenides. So in other words, all of the stages of the oxiding pictures, from the ignorance of one, heaven versus hell, your team versus my team, shapes and colors bullshit, or all ideas of right and wrong are nothing but daggers in the first oxiding picture, getting a glimpse, or maybe there's a pattern, or noticing the footprints, number 2, getting a glimpse of the ox, number 3, struggling to catch it, number 4, taming it with 5, and mastery of it with 6, to function as a dialectician, ideally yourself. All of that struggle, or although interestingly, he's not yet a dialectician, isn't he? So that's another interesting principle. You don't have to be only in one stage. You can shift between them during the day. So Socrates has an experience of divine luminosity, or mind knowing its mind. Now, it's not said at what particular time. So maybe he learned about the dialectic, went ahead and practiced it, went through the struggle of 4, had some success in 5, gained mastery in 6, 7 we haven't looked at yet today, leading to 8. So it's not said exactly when everything happened, but 8 seems to be the mind knowing itself, realizing its source. And of course, our method is the dialectic. Now notice, there is a kind of dialectic in the oxiding pictures. There is a kind of structure. There's our harmony. Of parts, also part of harmony. There are certain key words, certain metaphors being reused. Rope, man, ox. Like music. So there's a kind of dialectical or logos structure of the oxiding pictures, but of course, because of what we've been reading from Socrates and Jesus, we are maybe tweaking a few terms, or we can use our background of true understanding of the logos to solve the puzzle of the metaphors of the oxiding pictures. Whether or not the Zen Buddhist, whoever the Zen guru was who created these stages were, he may have not known the actual true logos or true understanding. Maybe he can only use metaphors, but we can, whether or not he was able to solve it with the correct terms, we can apply the correct terms. We can have best of both. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
And now you know.
Cool as a cuke. I find that very entertaining.
And it's very entertaining. I need a bigger soundboard. See? Isn't that fun? So as we just said, we're missing one in our review today. before we move on to the other side of heaven, 9 and 10. Let's have a quick look at number 7. Because we have the ignorance of certainty and smugness and cruelty and beliefs and ideas of right and wrong is just to daggers, and you're seeking physical gain and fear of loss, number 1. Seeking the ox, number 2. Discovering there might be something more to this game, the footprints, which may be the logos. Finding the tracks, number 2. Number 3, first glimpsing the ox, having an experience of something transcendent in some kind of a way, whether it be beautiful music, whether it be an enlightenment experience or meditation or drug or mushroom experience or dancing experience, or all sorts of ways you can have it, near-death experience, or through, as Socrates says, experiencing beautiful music, experiencing a beautiful young woman talking, using reason really well, or talking about something more profound than you're used to. Heraclitus, something that you've been reading, like we've been reading. Either way, you've had a glimpse of an intelligibility or a mind or a source to all things that also is the whole of your own senses. So it's not different from you. It's your own experience at the root of all of your senses. The glimpse. Number 4, and then applying it yourself, struggling to understand what's behind this glimpse, this music, this experience, what this young woman has been talking about, or what this text has been talking about. Catching the ball, it's a struggle, but you'll find yourself, you'll experience directly the power of your pathologos, which may be super important for when you reach the end to realize, oh, this is why human problems are so prevalent, why injustice is so obvious yet and sick, and yet people are so Nazi-like, have such Nazi-like loyalty to their own ignorance, despite it being against their own benefit. You've experienced the struggle of someone actually trying to get rid of it in 4. Struggling against the ox. Philosophical midwifery, dialectic, and dream analysis, we would call that. Taming the bull. Starting to have some successes from what you've been doing. Some having a more gentle state of mind. A more gentle or clean and gentle state of mind, but also recognizing that so you're starting to see the logos that you can follow. So struggling as you could say 4 is just the pregnant party or the interlocutor, the person going through the dialectic midwifery or dream analysis. But here you're starting to transition to become like the dialectician, because you're starting to see that every thought, every word, every block, every fantasy, every tangent, every daydream, and especially every night dream is a message from your true nature about either A, your excellence, the ox, your mastery of the ox, or B, your false beliefs or pathologos. It's either logos or pathologos, always. Anything that says that thoughts, any message, any experience is unreal or not meaningful is a delusion that reflects what you've been carrying in your own mind. It's your pathologos blocking you from seeing the logos. It's not good and evil, pal. It's the pathologos blocking you from seeing the logos that's always present. Number 5, taming the ox. So you're having some success and you're starting to see how it all fits. Seeing and more able to follow the logos. No, following the logos. Look, the ox is following you. Whoops, I'm in the wrong fucking thing. Excuse me. Whoops. Oh, that's what I did. Okay, hang on. Sorry. I'm supposed to be on the screen. So, 1, seeking the ox, ignorance. Pathologos. 2, finding the tracks. Hey, maybe there's something beyond. First glimpse. Now you've had an experience of the ox. 4, now you're struggling to integrate it. But you're seeing the power of your pathologos upbringing and false identification with self and your false way of being and false role within your family and clan and society that limits you. Catching the ox. Number 5, you're starting to have some success and you're starting to notice that the logos is always present and always sending you messages. Number 6, you're able to use that, follow that always prevalent logos to actually ride the ox. You can function as a dialectician now. Starting to see it. Oh, everything is either expression of your block or your highest vision. It's either the logos or pathologos, and everything is either from the state of mind of wonder and curiosity and a seeking of understanding, or the state of mind of certainty, savage sadism, and belief. It's either one of those two, certainty or curiosity, belief or seeking understanding. It's either logos or pathologos. Now it's just following it as a dialectician. Now, what is between functioning as a dialectician and the experience of oneness? Divine luminosity, beauty itself. Number 7, this is the last one for today. The bull transcended. Astride the ox I reach home. I am serene. The ox too can rest. The dawn has come. In blissful repose, within my thatched dwelling I abandon the whip and ropes. So the dialectic isn't needed anymore. Notice, you can function as a dialectician, not be distracted by your own pathologos and stuff, but you won't be completely free of your pathologos, no longer needing midwifery talks, or, well, you can always have midwifery talks, but no longer needing a dialectic. You only reach that, completely reaching home, when you have been participating. So there's something about functioning as a dialectician, practicing dream analysis with others, practicing midwifery with others, that's necessary for you to complete your journey home. Well, you can have mastery, you have to practice that mastery, sing the songs to woodsmen and village children before you completely reach home. Ox forgotten, self alone. In the Dharma there is no two-ness. So a oneness kind of state of mind. You're a soul at one with yourself, with logos mind. The ox is its primal nature. He is now recognized. Yeah, we're naturally dialecticians. We're naturally following the logos. It's our nature. It's our highest functioning. The trap is no longer needed when the rabbit is caught. Don't need the method anymore. A net becomes useless when a fish has been snared. Don't need the method anymore. Like gold has been separated from the dross, you've removed your pathologos. Like the moon which has broken through the clouds. The self which was always there, obscured by the clouds or the fog of your pathologos, to use the analogy Socrates uses, fog, barbaric fog. You've broken through. One ray of luminous light shines eternally. Ray of brilliant light. Only on the ox was he able to come home. Mind, using the mind to know the mind, is our method. But lo, the ox is not vanished. And not transcending mind yet. And alone and serene sits the man. The red sun rides high in the sky as he dreams on placidly. So dreams are still informing us. So we're free of pathologos. We don't need midwifery anymore, in that sense. Through our participation in 4, having successes and applying it in 5, even functioning as a dialectician or midwife in 6. We're at the end. But we're still awaiting 8, still listening to our dreams, still maybe doing a dialectic on what we've been reading, still reflecting with our friends. Yonder beneath the thatched roof, the idle whip and rope are lying. So you don't need it as something to keep you on track. It's now your way of being. You've seen through your pathologos, you are now functioning according to the logos and your true self. But it's still there. So this freedom from the pathologos seems to be the preconditions for experiencing the logos directly as pure mind. So in other words, you are still a soul, or you're still a soul there is still the method. You don't need it anymore. And now you are waiting in blissful repose, awaiting the gift of mind as luminosity, which would be 8. So all of this preparation of the mastery of the Logos and the freedom from Pathologos is experienced here serenely. You've broken through the clouds, awaiting 8, the experience of luminosity. So this would be the mastery. Mastery is an interesting word. Mastery means you can use your skill enough to benefit others, which means you're constantly developing mastery, but you can have a small amount of mastery to help someone at a really low level. So mastery of riding the bull is different from completion of your own work. Freedom from Logos and going through 3, 4, 5, 6 to master the dialectic and Logos. Free from Pathologos, awaiting, not needing the dialectic, but it's still a thing that exists because you haven't had, now you are in 8, having the transcendent experience of no longer in the physical world. I mean, you are still in the physical world, but you can separate from it and experience divine luminosity. The intelligence from which all Logos has unfolded, and it's the distorted shadow or distorted ignorant reflection of this divine luminosity that is the root source of our Pathologos. Figures pretending to be oneness, beautiful, truth, justice. That's the cause of our Pathologos, just as number 8 is also the true cause of true Logos. The imitation of 8 in belief for the Pathologos, the true nature of 8, the source of the Logos we've been following through these oxiding pictures. So, leading us to Socrates saying, so that's Socrates' journey through these 8 oxiding pictures. And it's great to hear how Socrates did it because, we can look for beautiful young women who share understanding in a way that's inspiring and different from other people we hear around us, not talking about beliefs or fighting or heaven versus hell bullshit. We can look for musicians that participate in something greater that inspires our soul. We can look for texts like the ones we're reading, talking about the true nature of wisdom, providing the map. All the way leading us to participating in the dialectic ourselves, to go through these oxiding pictures, because we've listened to Socrates' first-hand experience. These are real people he talked to and real things he experienced that we can experience. So, by having a reflection that we've been doing on this channel of the oxiding pictures, applying our understanding of the Logos to nail it down even further, solve the puzzle of the metaphors. By the way, everything we've been doing to unpack the metaphor and the story, what's encountered, state of mind, functioning, and conclusion, we can also apply to our dreams. So I hope everything that you've been learning as you've been going through this, you can wonder about how you might apply it to your dream. By the way, record your dream as soon as you wake up, because that's how you get it more accurate. And then you can use AI to transcribe it if you like. Make sure it's the right words, because the words are the important thing, as we've been seeing. The Logos is the whole thing, following the Logos. So that's why we want to get our Logos more most accurate for dream analysis. But everything we've been doing and trying to solve the mystery of the oxiding pictures, you can apply to every single dream you have. So it's a win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
Awesome, man.
And that's awesome, man. So, thanks to our reading of the oxiding pictures, we can better understand Socrates and his journey. And thanks to Socrates sharing his journey, we can better understand what we can go through, literally, in our own experience, to become like Socrates and awaken to our true journey and purpose, and even move through the oxiding pictures. Isn't that neat? I think it's neat.
She's a moron. She's a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
I coined that.
No, she's not a moron.
I'm too pure.
She's pure.
It makes sense.
Okay, I thought I did. Does that make sense?
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
So disgusting.
These absolute dullards, borderline
chimps
want to kiss a fox.
Okay, so how does it finish? From musicians to the beautiful young woman whose voice rings with integrity and truth, to realizing that self-mind is one and not at war with itself. You're not a sinner, you're not a small bean, you're not a bad noodle. There's no devils in your fucking brain. To learning more and coming across the kinds of things like we're reading, Heraclitus talking about wisdom, and to become more curious. Notice, intrigued. He's intrigued all the way through. He's curious and intrigued and seeking more. Hearing that Parmenides was going to visit Athens, going out of your way, seeking a higher kind of dialogue or dialectic through which you can realize that to know the mind through the mind is to realize its very source, which would be the ultimate experience of which mind minding mind, or person, rope, ox, all as a oneness, beyond any physical concepts or shapes and colors, physical senses. The highest experience, 8th oxiding picture. As for my dreams, they played a major role in my life, but they came after I learned about Parmenides. Meaning, after he learnt the dialectic, he learnt the language of how to understand your dreams. So Socrates taking us, giving us the method, dialectic, giving us what it'd be like to experience it as a human being, meaning we can play our role as someone who speaks truth like that beautiful young lady, or plays music, or reads like we're doing here, helping ourselves and others through the process, through the method of the dialectic, the art which we're here to master in the 6th, benefit freeing ourselves from our ignorance in the 7th, culminating in the highest experience of mind minding mind in the 8th. Next time, what's on the other side of that? What's beyond oneness of mind? Holy crap, we're doing some good work, aren't we, today? So big teaser once again. What's on the other side of heaven? What's on the other side of oneness, mind minding mind? If that's the penultimate enlightenment experience, the 8th ox herding picture, what will the ox herding pictures tell us about the ultimate? Because that's our huge question, remember? We've been talking about the development of ignorance in 1 and 2, through understanding, culminating in the highest experience of knowledge in the 8th. How do you know the self if it's beyond knowledge? How do you know self if mind is here and self is here? Can't be through mind. What the heck is that? So, huge teaser for next episode. I hope you're excited. I hope you've got something to be intrigued and curious and wondering about, and I hope to see you next time. Feel free to follow on Twitch, YouTube, donate to the channel if you have the means and you would like to. Link below if you want a copy of the text. There's a link below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you. See you then. And then the noise. Play the button. Excuse me. There we go. See you in the next one. Bye.